Yeah, dynamically it's more navigable. It's not cumbersome.
Yeah, I shoot you there.
What?
Navigable.
Oh. Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt.
And my name is Paulo, and we just spent a week with Lincoln's Navigator Black Label.
Yes, this is their full-size, body-on-frame, truck-based luxury SUV. And there's a lot going on, so I'm going to walk you through everything that you need to know.
And then we're going to get behind the wheel and talk about our standouts for the week. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. But before we dive into the main event, we're going to zoom in on some of the funky little odds and ends that we've noticed this week. Now, as one might expect on a black label vehicle, you do get power deploying running boards, but watch this, they'll come out even if I just put my hand on the door handle. I don't even need to open it. It's just going to sense that I'm there, and it's going to deploy my running board for me. And speaking of the black label, they've designated the interior colors as themes more than just interior colorways. The black is called Invitation. You get this really pretty saddle brown called Enlighten, but what we have here is this light gray called Atmospheric. It's got some gold stitching in here, graduating perforations, and it's really nice. You've got the Starry Night kind of open pore wood to go in the atmospheric direction, I guess you could say. Also, shout out to the F-150 style taco door handles here. And one thing I don't love as much with the Lincoln badge is that you get basically a normal Ford key. Sure, it says Lincoln on the back, and it's got this nice gold tassel with leather and this kind of gold plating here, but this is just the Ford key. But to be fair, you can use your phone as a key. That's a nice touch. And despite not being an EV and from a conventional legacy automaker with actual buttons, some of the stuff feels very Tesla in here. You see your steering wheel controls. They don't have any like writing on them. They're just these backlit ones for your mirror and window control and your, I guess, highway assist stuff, your driver assist stuff, and it corresponds up into your cluster like you've seen in some of the Lexus vehicles that we've tested in the past. So if I want to adjust my mirrors, I have to go in here and then I can adjust them from here. I can select the left mirror and adjust it up, down, whatever, go back if I want to adjust the steering wheel, and I have to do all of this from here. I don't love this, Lincoln. And in that same vein, you see your vents don't actually have toggles on here. So if you want to move your vents around, you have to go into the vent menu down here, and then you can move your vent around. Again, I don't love this. We see this in some of the other EVs. Rivian comes to mind. I think the Teslas might do something similar to this. But I will say, if you're going to do it this way, Lincoln's done it in the least offensive way because they have these shortcut buttons. I can have all the air on me, or I can have all the air away from me. So I do like these little shortcut buttons, but what was wrong with the tab? And you can see the entire width of your dash is dominated by a huge screen. It's kind of sectioned off in the middle there. This is more your driver's oriented cluster and things like that. And this is kind of just like a helper screen. And this is divided into 3 parts. And you control that by going down here into your center screen. You click this little icon here, and now you can select exactly what you want to see in those corresponding screens. So if I want a compass up instead of the clock, I just drag it up there and then it reflects. This is pretty cool. This is a nice little thing so you can customize your overarching driving experience. But it doesn't stop there. You go into these dots here, which gets you to all your apps. You can scroll down and then you can select YouTube. And if you've got internet enabled on your car, you can watch YouTube videos and you can send it up to the screen here. So if you want to watch, I don't know, maybe let's say our RS6 video, you can select it here, and then it'll start playing down here, or if I want, I can send it up here. What a machine. Welcome to Downshift. One more funky thing you can do from the screen here is you can go to seats, and then I can control the rear seats. I can control the second row, right there. I can also set their adjustments and massage in the rear seats. And in your little car menu here, you've got digital scent, and there's 3 different fragrances that Lincoln has equipped into your car. They're stored here into your center console. You press this button, and these are your fragrance containers. You can get replacements of these at the dealership, and they actually do smell pretty good. And there's 3 different diffusion patterns. There's like a long cycle, a short cycle, and another one, or you can turn it completely off if you want your car to smell like feet. But no doubt the thing that you've seen already online is this REJUVENATE function here. This is where Lincoln has worked with the Calm or kind of meditation app, and you've got different themes. So you've got this kind of waterfall meditation theme, which kind of adjusts the climate controls. It plays some music over the speakers. Let's see if you can hear it. There's also just kind of like a water droplet pattern. Again, the screen's not actually doing this. but you get the idea. And there's like a Northern Lights Aurora Borealis. This one feels very dramatic, kind of Hans Zimmer. Pretty cool. And then of course you can set your seat to like recline and totally relax. You can get your massage on and just have an entirely relaxing, mindful rejuvenation experience in your Lincoln. But that's something that actually has to do with cars. We've got drive modes down here. This button over here with the checkered flag and the snowflake and the leaf, you press that. This is pretty typical. And then you can't press it again to cycle through. It just pulls up the drive menu. So you then have to use your finger and swipe across to your drive modes. Normal 2 high, normal 4 auto, excite, that's your sport, conserve, your eco mode, slippery, pretty self-explanatory, deep slippery or deep conditions, and you have like a climbing feature. But in excite mode, shifts to 4x4, so you got 4-wheel traction, and then you can hear turbo noises from this thing because, well, we'll get to that later. But I do want to mention, you see you don't have paddles on your steering wheel here, but you can still manually control your gears with this little button here. This is something that we've seen on other truck shifters, especially on the Fords. They've got the little buttons on the side of the shifter to shift up and down. So to have this, I just can't see myself using these buttons to switch gear, but hey, maybe you would. And while there's not a huge amount of buttons to control things like your mirrors, you do have this physical camera button down here, and I love that. With this thing being so large, it's nice to be able to pull up the 360 cameras and make sure I'm all the way in my spot and I'm not too close to anyone else. This is a nice little touch. You also got a 28-speaker Revel Ultima sound system, and it sounds really good, but it also looks really good. It's like a gold or copper-plated speaker grill, and you see these little perforations are certainly designed to look like Lincoln logos, don't you think? And you've got them up here as well. Really, really cool attention to detail. And this Lincoln Navigator competes against things like Cadillac's Escalade, Jeep's Grand Wagoneer, the Infiniti QX80, and maybe kinda sorta the Lexus LX. So prestigious company to be sure, with its main rival being the Escalade. And as you probably noticed, 2025 means a new generation for the Lincoln Navigator, but under the hood we're met with something that we're actually pretty familiar with. This is the 3.5 twin-turbocharged V6 that we're familiar with from the Ford Motor Company umbrella. It's making 440 horsepower and 510 pound-feet under the hood of the Navigator. And yeah, that's pretty much Raptor numbers if memory serves. So 0 to 60 is good for the mid 5 seconds. We got 20.7 mpg on our Lakeshore Loop fuel economy test. That does generally flatter cars, but still, we got it. Now, the thing that's interesting is in the cousin, I guess you could say cousin, F-150, you can get the Power Boost Hybrid. There's no Power Boost Hybrid here. This is the only engine and the only tune, I believe, that you can get on the Navigator. So maybe Lincoln will bring the Power Boost Hybrid in future model years or even generation. And power goes from that twin-turbo V6 through a 10-speed automatic transmission and to a full-time 4-wheel drive system as standard. And let's talk a little bit about how that feels and translates on the road. Okay, into excite mode, 4x4 shift in progress. Foot down. Ooh, there's turbo. I mean, Raptor power in this thing, it's huge, but it's not slow. It's certainly not slow. That's pretty good. Now I'm gonna take this thing out of excite mode because it's not really what this thing is about. I think what this thing is about is two things. One, luxury, of course, being a Lincoln with an interior like this and a name like Black Label, how could it not be about luxury? But two, I think, whether they want to talk about it overtly or not, this thing and this class is really about size and presence. And this thing has both of those. Curb weight, just under about 6,000 pounds, but it feels enormous on the road. It feels wide. I'm taking up the whole lane here, but I also feel not that stressed about it. I have a enormously high up commanding view of the road. The dash, even though it has these huge screens on it, is low. I can see everything. I've got great visibility out of the wing mirrors. I got great visibility out the back, and it's not very cumbersome in terms of like a size and agility perspective. The turning circle is actually pretty impressive on this thing. When it comes to the ride, the other thing that I mentioned this car is about, luxury. This does not have an air suspension. Some of the rivals bring an air suspension. Lincoln said they didn't need it. I kind of hemmed and hawed when I heard that. And then I drove this thing and I was like, you know what? They didn't need it. They didn't really need it. Now there is still quite a bit of body motions. I think that's just kind of inescapable for having like a big truck-based body-on-frame SUV. That just kind of comes with the territory. No amount of air suspension or adaptive suspension like we have here is really going to get rid of that entirely. You also, over like medium imperfections in the road and larger bumps, you will get some of the like truck like frame shutter, where it's not like, you know, in like a GLS or an X7, you get like one thump and done. This is like a thump and then a slight reverberation or a slight vibration through the chassis. Just kind of inherent with the truck stuff. But that's why you buy something like this. You want something big and kind of burly and kind of innately American. But the rest of it, aside from some truck shutter and some body motions and kind of like floaty boatiness, is really pretty good. The steering is a good heft. It's pretty direct. The truck thing responds when I use the steering wheel. The powertrain is very smooth. This twin turbo V6, it builds power well. I'm not waiting for turbos to spool up. The 10-speed transmission is pretty good. Most of the time I hardly even notice this thing has a transmission. There are some times if you're driving a little bit more spirited that, yeah, I'm aware that it's shifting or trying to figure out what gear it needs to be in, but generally speaking, most of the time when you're driving like a normal person or casually, it's fine. It's super luxurious. There's not a rough edge anywhere. The braking makes sense. There's not a huge amount of bite at the top of the pedal. It's a nice progressive kind of smooth braking feel, and it's good. The only thing that I will say is there is a little bit more wind noise on the highway than I was expecting coming off of the A-pillar, but if you've got some cooled seat going with the fan behind you that you can hear, or if you've got some loud music going from your Revel audio, you're not gonna notice it. So overall, aside from a little floaty boatiness, which I actually don't mind in something like this, everything else, really luxurious. Very nice. And like I mentioned, this is a new generation and therefore a new face for the Navigator, so let's talk a little bit about styling. Now, I think the new face has a pretty imposing presence. I like the big chain link grille with the Lincoln logos, or at least the kind of copper accents act as Lincoln logos, at least in my eye. Now, you do kind of have the full width headlight running light that runs across into your Lincoln logo in the center of your grille and then out the other side. Around the side, you've got wheels ranging from 22 to 24 inches. We've got the big 24-inch wheels with some like mildly copper accenting, and I think the wheels look spectacular. Very ornate, very luxury. But zoomed out, that's where you can see the sheer length and size of this thing. Again, this being the longer one for $3,000. Around the back, our taillights kind of mirror the headlights, but in an upside down kind of way. And you've got a huge black bar across the rear gate with some subtle Lincoln logos and some Easter egging going on. Now, I do like the way that this new Navigator looks, so leave it down in the comments what you prefer the look of, this Navigator or the Escalade. But as we get to the tailgate, this is one of my favorite things about the new Navigator. Now, your release for your power tailgate is over here under the L for liftgate. Obviously it's powered, but you can see we have a split tailgate, which is fantastic. I love this feature. You release the lower area, it gives the classic Lincoln chime, and then you can sit on here. It can hold 2.5 of me, up to 500 pounds. Now, we've got the longer one, so we've got more trunk space, and we even have a little bit of storage under here, and another little storage pocket up here. But you can take out this little table that hides under the trunk floor, and you can mount it in here for tailgating. You can use it as a backrest if you want to sit on this drop-down tailgate. The versatility here is unbelievable. I love what Lincoln has done. They've spent a lot of time thinking about the trunk and utility area, and it goes a long way. You also have a plethora of different charging options in here, 2 USB-Cs, a 12-volt, typical 12-volt, a house outlet, you've got tie-downs, you've got LEDs, you've got storage pockets, you've got everything that you could possibly ask for. You've got light controls here that control your moving and pivoting tailgate lights. Again, nice, handy feature for actually tailgating at sporting events or things like that. And of course, you've got power folding third row. You can control the left side, the right side, or everything all at once. And with everything down, you're looking at easily over 100 cubic feet of space, making this thing wildly practical. And with the added tailgate features, I absolutely love the cargo area on the Lincoln. And if you want to tow with your Navigator, you can tow up to 8,700 pounds. But since we have these fancy 24-inch wheels, that's going to drop your towing capacity actually about 200 pounds. So still, 8,500 pounds is pretty good. But we'll move up the cabin to talk about our third row. Now, there's some buttons here on the side of your second row seat. It's going to electronically move itself forward and then hinge here in a child seat friendly way, so you can leave your child's seat here in the seat while still getting into the third row. And you can see, we'll talk a little bit more about this, it's almost like an executive rear seat package like we had in the Escalade IQ, but I can actually get into the third row in this car without hurting myself. Big points to Lincoln on this. Again, I'm 6'1", I'm going to demonstrate the space here. Now there's 3 seats back here. There's 3 seat belts, so you can actually fit 3 across pretty well. Now this seat right here is basically moved back as far as it can go. I'm gonna slide behind here at 6'1", and I actually genuinely have knee room. Again, this is one of the benefits of having the longer Navigator here. But it doesn't stop. I've got vents back here, really nice kind of suede-ish headliner. I can actually power recline my seat back here in the third row. I've got 2 USB-C chargers, 2 cup holders, a little storage pocket, and the same thing on the other side. Only a single cup holder on this side, but still. And it doesn't stop because you have 2-level heated third row seats. That's impressive. But as we move up and talk about the second row, basically every luxury you can possibly fathom, you can get here in the second row, except for one thing. There's no window shades here. It's not that they're not powered, it's just that they don't exist at all. But you do have really, really nice, I love this atmospheric interior package with the gold contrast stitching and some of the like copper contrasted speaker grills for your Revel audio. Really, really pretty. Again, take a look at some of the Alcantara micro suede kind of stuff that you get for your headliner here. Now looking at the seats themselves, really, really customizable. Power adjustments, of course. You've got heated, you've got cooled, and you can get massage here in your second row. Very, very nice. Again, kind of graduated perforations, stitching, all of the usual stuff. I'm gonna step in to show you the space because I'm 6'1", and it's sitting back behind the front seat. I've got plenty of knee room. I'm a little bit tighter on headroom with my hat, but if I take my hat off, I do have plenty of space. Huge glass panoramic roof, and we do have a rear entertainment package here. So as it boots up, obviously if you have this thing internet enabled, you'll be able to stream stuff and do a whole bunch of stuff here. The screens maybe feel a little bit small, but that is the first world problems. Over here, you've got your center command screen. It's touch sensitive, of course, and you can control things like your seats. If you want to make adjustments, if you want to work your massage, heated, cooled, if you want to go into chauffeur mode, you can set that front passenger seat all the way up and use the back of it almost like an ottoman, which is pretty cool. You can control your audio and media. You can set your climate controls back here. Again, you've got your dedicated zone for your second row here. You can even keep track of your air quality. Air quality is pretty good in here. It filters the air in the cabin and diffuses it with fragrance so it always smells good and it's always good for you. And then in terms of lighting, you can even adjust your ambient lighting. Purple, obviously the best. But then down here, you've got your covered area with your dual cup holders and a wireless charger. And here, you do have an area for headphones. If you want to store headphones to work in tandem with your entertainment package. Now, if you want a little bit more, you do have a power outlet down here and you do have some cup holders down here. I wouldn't use these because, well, obviously look at them. And then you've got another little storage area underneath here. So there's plenty of storage in the second row. And if I want to control the panel roof, I can do it from back here too. So basically, like I said, anything you can imagine, any luxury you can fathom, you get it in the back seat of the Navigator, as long as it's not window shades. And heading up even further, that doesn't really get old. That's just kind of nice. The seats themselves adjust in 33 different ways, at least for the driver. It's 28 for the passenger, which is still probably enough ways of adjustment. But again, massage with different intensities. You've got heated seats, you've got cooled seats, you've got a heated steering wheel, you've got memory seats, which I think is actually in the screen. But uber comfortable, huge, high, commanding view of the road from the driving position here. The steering wheel actually is kind of squared off a little bit. They chopped off the top of the steering wheel so you can see this screen, but I actually kind of like the way it falls into my hand. But overall, the driving position, the seats here, couldn't be better. And then as we talk tech, we've already talked a lot about some of the smaller features that you have within your screens, but from a high level, this is what you got going on. You don't have a dedicated head-up display or dedicated cluster, but you have this huge screen that functions kind of as both, and that's why the steering wheel looks like this. I do like this, I'm gonna mention it again, but that's why you've got this here, and it actually works pretty well. This is something that Toyota has tried in the Prius and some other places, and it's worked to varying degrees, but I actually think they've pulled it off here well in the Lincoln. Now, the screen itself that you're looking at across the dash is 48 inches, and it's standard for every trim. You have the cluster and kind of infotainment screen, and then this is where you control everything. These are not a touch screen. These 48-inch screens up here, they're not touch screen, but you control everything down here as we showed you before. Now, it's got newer software, it's much faster, you've got over-the-air updates, and it's running on Android Automotive software. You got wireless Apple CarPlay, we've got great 360 cameras, as we talked about before, which is super helpful for parking something this large, and we've got a total of 14 USB-C ports throughout the car. We got a wireless charger down here, and everything to do with the tech is pretty impressive, especially with all those little funky odds and ends that we covered at the beginning of the video, including the Blue Cruise Driver Assist Suite, which is one that we always generally love. This is the new 1.4 iteration. It's got auto lane change, and when it's overtaking semis, you know, if you're overtaking a semi and it's in the right lane, you're in the left lane, These systems generally keep you pretty centered or almost kind of hugging that right lane, which gets a little disconcerting when you're overtaking semis. So this actually can identify that and keep you a little bit more leftward in your lane to give you a little bit more peace of mind when you're overtaking a semi. And I really, really love that small attention to detail. Another thing that I like, you've got the turn signal kind of blind spot cameras that we've seen in Hyundais for a few years. And I like that they've brought this. The resolution isn't amazing, but at least they have it, and it conveys whether or not somebody is in your blind spot, which is all that thing needs to do. So safety suite, general tech and infotainment, real good. And the last thing that we'll talk about before we get with Paulo and go for a bit of a drive is the price. Now, the new Navigator for 2025 here, this new generation, starts at just about $100,000, and that's a big $16,000-ish jump from last year. But there's a good reason for that. Obviously, with a new generation, new tech, new styling, and all that sort of stuff, it's usually going to be more expensive, and it is, but it's also more expensive because they've removed that kind of base or entry-level trim from last year. And that's because the sales figures reflected that no one was really buying it. So they've lumped in more amenities, more technology, and it kind of starts at that second up trim you can think of. Now, our black label starts at $117,000, and then you can option from there. And I think this actually represents a fairly decent value in comparison to the Escalade. So let's get with Paulo and talk a little bit about some of our pros and cons from this week. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video.
I love a good pumped-in noise.
That's Raptor power though.
Yeah,
that's 10 horsepower less than Raptor power, but same torque.
I'm gonna go to...
That's pretty cool.
Conserve. Yeah, I think that's like the first thing that really stood out to me is it's absolutely no slouch. Like I think it's quick enough for you to do your overtaking. It's got enough power and torque to do your towing needs as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a decently reliable powertrain here. 10-speed V6 twin turbo has been in a lot of applications from Ford and Lincoln. So
yeah, I think I don't know who's going to be driving this thing in Excite mode very often, but in Excite mode, if you just play a little bit with the throttle, you get boost going, you let off, there's a little bit of blow-off valve noise. Yeah, and that's just kind of fun in your humongous 3-row luxury SUV truck thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
No.
But yeah, I did drive this thing mostly in conserve mode.
Mm-hmm.
I think on our Lakeshore loop we got like 20-ish mpg, and then the rest of the week I'm getting like 18. So yeah, that's pretty typical what we see.
Which I think is actually pretty good for this application. This
it's not bad.
Weight.
My 4Runner was getting 17 mpg on the highway.
Right.
So for this size and this much power, like Raptor power, it's not bad, realistically.
Yeah. The other thing that stood out to me this week is that I think what it's designed for, it executes it very well. Carrying a lot of people, a lot of things, and I already mentioned it, but towing heavy objects, preferably a boat. You have a boat.
Preferably a boat.
I don't have a boat.
I feel like you like to throw in that I have a boat every now and then. I don't have a boat. My parents have a boat.
You really like to say you have a boat a lot. So I'm just basically letting the audience know what you say to me quite often and just letting them feel how I feel.
Back to the Navigator.
No, but I think it does it really well. Like, executes really well. This weekend we went up to the lake. I had a bike in here. We had all our luggage. We had dogs, a few different people. We took it, and we had like 7 adults in here. And there's enough headroom in the third row, decent legroom in the third row. So it's just, it does what it's designed to do really well, I think.
Yeah, I think my opinion is, it starts at like 100K. The Longboi is like $3,000 more. That's a weird way to say it. $3,000 more. Just get it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a bigger trunk. The third row is like legitimately inhabitable for 6-footers. Like, I could sit back there. I didn't hurt myself getting into the third row like I did in the Cadillac with the executive rear seat package. So, like, I would recommend just getting the big one, the Longboi.
Yeah.
So, because, you get everything then.
Right.
So,
yeah, and then I think, like, on that note, like, maybe you're concerned with how big it is, how it rides, but
if you're looking at a Navigator, you can't be concerned with how big it is.
Well,
it's going to be big.
Like, how is its agility and turning radius and that sort of thing? And like the steering rack in this thing is actually really, really good. I think it drives when you're turning a lot smaller and feels a lot smaller than it actually is. Now, obviously it takes up the whole lane, But I think it's more agile than you think it would be for a body-on-frame, massive, long truck.
100%. Yeah, I was really impressed with the turning radius. It didn't feel super cumbersome at low speeds. I could get it through a parking lot pretty easily. On the road, it does feel like it takes up the whole lane. It does feel big. You sit up really high and everything, so you still have that experience, but it's not as nerve-wracking to drive around smaller cars in parking lots as I thought it would be.
Right, yeah.
So that's a good thing.
And that all comes through this awesome, rectangular egg steering wheel.
Let them know.
And I absolutely love it. Like,
I do too.
I don't think it'd be practical in every application, but like every time I drove it, I was like, this steering wheel is the best.
I don't know why I like it, but when it's at 90 degrees and I'm holding it like this, and like my hands are close together, I don't know why I like that. I just really do.
Just like that, yeah.
I really do like it. There's two things on the steering wheel that I don't like, but I don't know if you want to say that for the cons.
Yeah, we can save that.
Okay. What else do you like about this thing?
I think the last thing is, or the last two things I'll just quickly mention is like Blue Cruise in this application. I thought it would do a lot of ping-ponging, but no surprise, I guess, to some, like it works really, really well. Yeah, I mean,
let's talk about some of the things we didn't like.
I think the two main things that I didn't necessarily like, one, you were just about to talk about it. The buttons on the steering wheel, I think for the target audience, it's just going to be difficult to adjust. Like you have to hover over them and like do a soft touch and then touch to actually do anything with it. There's like multiple screens within each.
Yeah. And
it's just not, I think it's kind of intuitive for us, but like for the target audience, I don't know how intuitive it's actually going to be for them. Like that's kind of a pain in the ass. I like how they feel, but the functionality I think is just a little bit lacking for me.
Yeah, we've seen this in some of like Lexus has done this in the past with their RX and things like that. They're getting away from it because I think there's been backlash. And this is kind of like the overarching theme. I'm going to call it like the Tesla-fication. And I think some of these legacy automakers are susceptible to this because they see Teslas selling well and everything, but this is not why Teslas sell well. They don't sell well because they've removed buttons.
Right.
Like the vents here, they don't have tabs. Now you have to go into the screen and like adjust where your vent is. Now there's shortcuts to make all the air on you or all the air off you, but like that's a pain in the ass. We didn't need to reinvent vent toggles. It's not cluttering up the cabin. It doesn't hurt the design. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
We don't need this. I don't need a button on my steering wheel with a sub menu to adjust the height of my steering wheel. You know what I mean?
Well, you do if it constantly moves on its own.
I guess that happened to you.
Which it did for me.
But like these are not things that needed to be reinvented. We were in the Volvo EX30 the other day. Like they're reinventing like key fobs.
Yeah.
There's certain things that we don't need reinvented.
Right.
And that's my little rant.
Yeah. I mean, that was really the main things that stuck out from like a negative perspective, and those are pretty minor. I mean, overall, I really did enjoy my time with this. Like it grew on me the more I spent time with it.
Yeah, I think my final thought is just kind of like the Escalade outsells the Navigator like 4 or 5 to 1 or something like that. And now we've spent time in each, and maybe there's things about the Escalade that are nicer, but it's marginal, and like a lot of it's subjective. Like you said, you like the look of the Escalade better. I don't mind the look of this. And like the interior, like this atmosphere on this black label with the Stardust wood, like it feels luxurious.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, from what this car is versus what that car is, that car isn't 4 times better to justify 4 times more sales. I think this is a very solid and comprehensive product. It's powerful, it's huge, it's practical, it's very luxurious. I really don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So maybe with that, we wrap it up. So thanks to Lincoln for letting us have a go in your Navigator Black Label. Thank you to you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.